Hello, my name is Anthony. I'm a Mississippi State student in meteorology. I've been doing this for a couple years, not the most experienced person in the world, but I want to show you what I'm expecting from Hurricane Beryl based on the latest projections, and I'm recording this around noontime on what today is. Today's Tuesday, the 2nd of July. So as you can see, that the hurricane is expected to weaken, not quite into tropical storm status. Hopefully it does, but as it does, it's expected to generally move in the westward direction, make some land interaction, and then reemerge into the Gulf. So that's your TLDR of what's happened and what's happening. So this is its wind swath, and what we've noticed is obviously it's picked up in intensity. We see these maroon colors are the specific hurricane force winds, and the tropical storm force wind field is expanding, as usually what happens when these things do a couple eye wall replacement cycles. They get bigger, and as they move further north in latitude. So you can see, though, it is starting to get more of a northerly biased component, and that's going to impact where it moves in a couple of days. I'll mention that just shortly. We can also show you the rainfall potential for here. For these islands, they're going to get some rain too, but this video will be mainly focused on what potentially impacts we can see in the continental United States. So here's the latest cone. It's showing that it's weakened. Now it's no longer a Category 5 storm, but it's still moving pretty fast at 22 miles an hour. This storm is generally moving really fast for a hurricane this size. I mean, 22 miles an hour is really, you would expect it to move 14, 15 for a storm this big. So that's something we're noticing. And again, I am expecting it to weaken as and the National Hurricane Center is too, as it heads in this general direction. So let's break it down. Let's go to tropical tidbits. And I kind of want to show you what scientifically is going on and everything like that the best I can. So this is a vertical profile of the atmosphere, and the stronger it gets, the more it feels these winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. At this point, it looks like this one has specifically a northeast component to it. But you can see the winds towards the surface are more going from east to west. So that's something that we are looking at. And the weaker it gets, the more it feels these, unless it feels the south to north component. So as it weakens, it'll tend to want to head more due west is the kind of the summary. And how fast it weakens will depend on whether it would be one steered more west as it heads through the Caribbean Sea. Now, what you're looking at here is also making land interactions with Jamaica. And now if you pull up one of the hurricane models that do a better job sampling these, this particular model, this is the HWRF, a little bit too strong at this point, I think, but since it's stronger, it pushes it further north and interacts with Jamaica, and that would weaken it. So either way, this storm is going to weaken and then head due to the west. And this is the Yucatan Peninsula. This is like the Cancun area. This is Cuba. This is the little passage between them. This one's showing minimal land interaction here, but still weakening over land and then re-emerging into the Gulf and re-strengthening to a pretty powerful storm. And you see here, I believe this would be like the Galveston area. So this is potentially a pretty bad situation if this particular model shows up. This one is usually the most ambitious hurricane type model. Usually, though, it does hint at how strong storms could get. It was hinting at this storm becoming a major hurricane, even stronger than that. So this one has been on it for this time as well. Now let's look at the storm cross sections. This basically shows, let's go up to date. I'll go up to date, which is right here. So you're starting to see the storm becoming a little more lopsided, like I said. The east component and the south component, the west component and the south component, a little bit weaker than what the other side is, the northerly and the more easterly component. But what that will do is, you see, we move through time here. This is tomorrow. We start seeing more dry air intrusion. This dry air pushing in or trying to push into the center core, weakening it even more. So this is what we're looking at with these two graphs. These are the important ones that I'm really looking at here. And some models show it weakening more than others. So this is a GFS model showing, hey, these storms, see how shallow these storms are? This storm would be more guided by those east-west winds rather than the upper levels that are south-north winds. So that will change where it goes, and then potentially even having more land interaction with the Mexico area. These waters are definitely warm enough to support tropical development. Now, the past couple of storms that have formed in the Gulf, if you remember Chris, if you remember Alberto, if you remember a couple of Invests, they've tried to cool the waters down here, and the waters just off the northern tip of Mexico here are a little bit cooler, but that's not going to be too much of an issue stopping it. These waters is still warm enough for tropical development. There's going to be a high pressure building. I'm going to show you that right here. That's the reason why it's been so hot today in Mississippi. We're in the upper 90s. So there's that ridge of high pressure. And notice we are expecting it to move and propagate further to the east, right? But we'll notice this feature right here. This is a closed off, cut off low. Now, if this storm was here in this area, it would want to be directed by this steering current and head more towards the north. It completely does not see that. Instead, it will slide underneath the ridge, and this low will potentially keep this locked in place, pushing it further west. So right now, what I'm favoring is a more direct into the coast impact rather than it curving up, even though it will eventually, as is normal with these storms, as it finds another weakness, to go further north. So basically, right now my thinking is, not 100%, if I go to the ensemble members and show you the center, where the eye of the center could be for the center of the storm, you can see there definitely still is a spread here. Those reds are where the center of the storm could be, even to Mexico here. You could see that no matter where you are, those storms are generally going to still head in the northwest direction, just some have it curve in this direction. I'm not going to rule out that possibility, but at this point it doesn't seem that all too likely. I do think we're more focused on a center pressure somewhere around here as that storm heads in this direction. So definitely still a fanning of models. What we've noticed with the latest runs on the ensemble members is that generally they are becoming more concise in this area, and then look how kind of common they are towards the coast right there. So that's kind of what we are expecting happening. Right now, the hurricane hunters are in it. I don't want to do that because it will completely be obsolete right after I publish this video, but there are hurricane hunters in it, and generally what that does is make the models more accurate. Not only do they sample this, sometimes they also sample the environment ahead of it to see exactly where it will go. This latest pass is showing that it is weakening. It went from a 938 to a 944. So it is weakening, but it remains to be seen how weak it will get and then how that will impact its path. That's currently what's going on. Let me know if you have any questions about or suggestions or something you see, and I'll see you guys in my next video.